All right, thank you, Lee, for joining us. You're the head of Own Studio, aren't you?
Yes, Romaire Studios. I picked out the name myself.
And you've had an amazing career in the special effects industry. I
Oh,
mean, of the World's Van Helsing, White Chicks, love that movie. Rose Red, Scooby-Doo. I mean, impressive stuff.
yeah. Yeah, I was fortunate to come in at a time in the business. I moved to Los Angeles around 2000, and there were a lot of things happening. In the course of those first few years, I worked for different companies, Steve Johnson's XFX, worked for Greg Canham, worked for Kevin Yeager. I don't know if you know those names, but they're very familiar effects legends from back in the day, and also Henson's as well. Worked on Buffy and Angel, many episodes of those, and Firefly, and all kind of things like that.
Well, I actually have a cat named after Buffy. So,
Oh,
yeah, I'm a fan, needless to say.
cool.
I mean, that's amazing. How did you kind of get into the business?
Uh, I'll give you this the whole story. When I was a kid, I was really interested in things that looked real. And I loved monster movies, dinosaur movies, Harryhausen, and all those fun things. I loved going to Disneyland and being or Disney World and being immersed in those atmospheres like Pirates and Haunted Mansion, Jungle Cruise. Um, but I come from a small southern town in Louisiana named Morgan City, and um, the thing that was prevalent everywhere was taxidermy all over the walls. So everybody had a deer or a fish or something like that in their house, and so I was fascinated with that, and I actually learned myself how to do it at a very young age, probably about 7 or 8, something like that. And I practiced taxidermy while everybody else was at the football games and things like that. So it was kind of a Norman Bates experience. But from there, I went to LSU, and I graduated in advertising and marketing. It was kind of a compromise with my parents, because they wanted me to have a sort of a business background, but it was still creative. And I worked in advertising for about 10 years, and then I just kind of lost my passion for it, and I really started thinking about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So it literally popped up that I was in a bookstore and I saw a magazine called Makeup Artist Magazine, and there was a makeup artist trade show, and I'm like, I was always interested in special effects makeup. I want to do that. So I went to the trade show in Los Angeles, and I met Dick Smith, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but he is a famous makeup artist, and he did the Exorcist and the Godfather, and all these amazing movies. And he sort of took me under his wing, and taught me. And I moved out here in 2000 without a job. It took me about a month, but after that, I was working for other like studios on these projects. So I was very lucky to come in at the right place at the right time, and met a lot of great people. And then 3 or 4 years later, I started my own studio.
That's fantastic. And congrats on that, because anything that involves following your dream is a big thing. And especially when you're really really successful at it, like you are. So yeah. So can you, if you don't mind me asking, what were some of the things you worked on Val Helsing?
I worked on one character that I came in right at the end of that. So I worked on a bunch of veining on the harpy vampires. They had all these veins on them, and we had to like draw out these vein patterns, and then we had to Dremel them out on plastic so the makeup artist could take them and put them on, and spray the veins really fast. So that's what I did on that. So I
Wow.
guess the harpy vampires, yeah. and I think a lot of that is ended up being CG. I'm not sure.
I actually just watched that the other day, and I didn't know you were involved when I watched it, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it was 6 Feet Under. I mean, that was an amazing series, and you got an Emmy for that.
Yeah. So I worked at a place called Todd Masters, Masters Effects, and they had a bunch of different TV shows at the time. I think they had Battlestar Galactica. Was it Battlestar Galactica? No. What's the time travel one? I can't remember. It's been a long time. Stargate, and a couple different other ones. And so I came in on that job, and it was, you have to work on this dead body. You have to do these makeups, and they had all gone to set and in Canada. So I was literally left to my own devices to do this stuff. And I was able to do it. And most of it myself, as far as the sculpting part goes. And then that episode just got picked for Emmy nomination. So it was the first year, I think, that or maybe the second, I can't remember, but it was the first or second year that they actually allowed the sculptors of the work to be considered on the Emmy, as well as the makeup artists. So I got really, I got lucky and won for being part of that team on 6 Feet Under.
Well, what's the key to making a lifelike body?
Finding somebody to mold. Yeah. So, a lot of those bodies are people that are cast, in silicone, and you have to cast them, and then you make a clay called a clay press, which you put clay into the mold. So you have essentially a clay dead body, or a version of this actor, and then you have to clean it up, and you have to, if the person is an autopsy victim, you have to sculpt the open chest, or if they have a lobotomy, you have to sculpt that open. And then you mold that, and then you cast it up in silicone, and amazing painters come in and paint it and make it look completely real. One of the keys a lot of younger people make or one of the mistakes they make is they try to paint it to actually look like a dead person. And that does not look good on camera. They end up looking like a ghost. So you really have to paint somebody to look like a living person, and then on camera that will look correct.
Okay, that's it's hard to believe that much has to go into one of those creations.
Oh, sure. Like, they have hair, each individual hair is punched on them one by one, and it's a lot of work.
That sounds like it. Recently, speaking of work, you did some work on a Five Nights Freddy's video.
Yes.
Amazing. What was that process creating one of those characters like? I mean, from, kind of from the beginning to the end.
Well, we got a call from the director, Carson Philbin, who wanted us to do this project, and he talked to several studios, and he picked us. But the challenge on that was we had to create 5 or 6 animatronic or characters in 8 weeks. And typically it takes a lot longer to do that. So especially when you're involving like mechanical mechanical heads. So I thought it was a great idea to do it. It's a challenge, and the kid Socks is somebody who garners a lot of attention. So I thought it would be seen. So I said let's go for it. Normally the animatronics that we do for theme parks they take years to do, and they have to last for 20 years with 95% reliability. This just had to last for a day. So we kind of built the heads in the computer. We built the mechanisms of the heads in the computer, and we 3D printed them out. So that allowed us to put them together pretty quickly, and we programmed them all at the same time. So the director had essentially a button to press, and all the heads the heads basically had to sing. I don't know if you're familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's, but they have a little stage show, and all the heads sang at one time, and he was able to start it and stop it just with a button. The bodies were We sculpted one body in clay, and then we molded it and made some latex and polyfoam suits, slightly altered them to make them look different. And so we were able to pull all that together really quickly. And it actually filmed across the country. It filmed, we built them in LA, and they filmed in South Carolina. So we had to allow for 5 days of the travel. But anyway, it came together really well. The guys shot it in one day, and they did an amazing job. It was quite a feat to pull off for these young guys to do this and not have any experience with working with animatronics. And the dancer, the guys they hired to play the characters were dancers, and they did a really good job acting like robots. So it all came together really well.
Right, and they look, fantastic.
Thank you.
So let me
It
get
took 21 people to pull that off, though, I have to say. So
so for the top, the head was animatronic, and the body were human, right?
right. So essentially, I don't know if you've seen the heads at Disneyland, but they now have talking heads on their suited characters. So that's what it was. It was essentially an actor who had a big head on him with mechanized eyes and mouth, and it was controlled remotely.
Oh, that is so cool. I can barely run my computer, let alone
Me too.
put that together so it would actually sing and talk. So that's amazing. How hard is it to create something like that? Especially, on a short time window compared to what it would usually take. Is it?
Well, we're fortunate that I shouldn't say fortunate, but we were able to take advantage of the fact that the actors strike and writers strike was on. So there were some really talented people who were available in town, and typically that's not the case when a lot of movie and TV production is happening. So everybody who we needed was available right away. And we have a very talented team here in-house as well, that we do some really complicated projects for Disney and Universal, and so I wouldn't say it was a complicated project for us. It was just the time frame itself was tough, but it was all very straightforward because the characters are cartoony. The characters have a really worn look, so you can hide some of the imperfections that you normally would spend time on. And they were also supposed to be robots, so we didn't have to have somebody doing very realistic actions, or we didn't have to have a complicated face. It was very simple. So all those things came together, and to our advantage.
Right. Okay. That's amazing. And it's got, I think, 6.7 million views now.
Wow. That's great.
That's a lot.
Yeah. In a week. Yeah.
That's amazing. So far, what has been your kind of your favorite creation? Your favorite, one project, your favorite thing?
Yeah. That's really, really tough. It's really tough to say because I've done a lot of really neat things. I would have to say, I was able to redo or help with the redo of Abraham Lincoln for Disneyland. I was part of right when I started my company, they came to me and they wanted help with, they were developing an all-electric animatronic head, and they were looking to me to help with skins and some sculpting and things like that. Typically all these figures in the past are either hydraulic, which is fluids in them, or pneumatic, which is air, but this was electric, and this is the direction that they wanted to go. So after several heads working with different characters, that project came up where they were going to redo the Lincoln Theater, and so they asked me to sculpt that character, and that was the first animatronic human figure that Walt Disney ever did. So being able to work on that and trying to pay homage to the brilliant sculptor who did it, and improve on the look of it, from a realism standpoint, was a big thing for me. Those figures, I would say that the people that take care of those figures in the park are really good, but they have a lot to do. So the old way they used to do it was they would pin beards on the head, the faces, and they would pin the eyebrows and put the wig on, and it slightly changed. It would never quite sit in the same place. It was pretty difficult. We developed methods that the wig would sit exactly in the right place, and we punched all the hair. In fact, we punched a whole beard for Lincoln, and then we shaved off part of it so you could see the stubble. We did all that kind of thing. Lots of pore texture and a lot more detail went into it than in previous iterations. So that was kind of very cool to be a part of. So, and that led to a lot of other work.
Yeah, that is amazing. What are you working on now?
I can't really talk about what we're working on, but we're working on a brand new big theme park that's coming to Orlando in a year or two. It's a brand new thing. We're also working on, I can't really say this one, but we're working on a movie that you would probably be very excited about. A horror movie. We haven't done a movie in a while. Just contributing to that, and we're doing some things for Disney as well. So yeah.
Busy man.
Yeah.
What was the last horror film you worked on?
The last horror film. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what the last horror film is. That's a good question. When I started, we were doing, we really went into theme park work really fast. Maybe it was a couple years where I was working on TVs and commercials, but I just saw an opportunity there. I guess they needed the cinematic approach that we take with movie characters. I saw a need there, so that's what I really focused on. And I almost really didn't chase any monster movies. I didn't chase any movies with dead bodies. I have so many friends who have studios that do amazing jobs with that. There's no need for another one. So, I kind of went in a different direction.
Right. Well, I get it. And, things like Universal and Disney are extremely important because it's provided a foundation for a lot of films and stories that we have and we see.
Yeah.
So there is nothing wrong with it. And, like you said, things like the Haunted Mansion and stuff. I mean, that when I was a kid, that was my jam.
Yes.
I mean, it still is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
No, I loved, all of that. My favorite was the Country Bear Jamboree.
those.
And I was lucky to be able to get to redo that when they did the refurbishment. I worked on the bears, so that was kind of a dream come true as well.
Yeah, I have very distinct memories of that show, of that
Yeah,
theme park show.
yeah. I would say, believe it or not, the only thing that I really haven't worked on is the Haunted Mansion. I've been a part of a lot of different things over there at Disney World and Disneyland, but almost was a part of it when they did a refurb, but just didn't happen, didn't work. So unfortunately.
Well, I'm glad that you did have the opportunity to do the Five Nights at Freddy's video because, that it's huge right now, but yours looks so good.
Oh,
I mean,
thanks.
just look, look good, and I'm glad to see it and know that you were involved, and that links it back to all those incredible movies like Van Helsing and 6 Feet Under and even Rose Red,
Mhm.
which I watched the other day. So yeah, that's great. But I love it, and I really hope that people get to check out the video and check out these characters that are so creepy when they come to life.
Yes.
because they are just
Speaking of at night,
downright.
yeah. Yes. You're right.